You feel exhausted, but you don't know why. Some of the most intelligent, emotionally aware people you'll ever meet are also some of the most exhausted, not because they're doing too much, because they're thinking too much. They replay conversations long after they're over. They analyze tiny details that other people barely notice. They imagine different outcomes, different possibilities, different futures. Even when nothing is wrong, their minds keep searching for something they might have missed. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Today, let's explore the psychology of people who think too much. What's going on in their brain? Why do they do it? And why it's not a personality defect or a weakness. Let's start with the name. Psychology has a name for this pattern: rumination. And there are two types: reflective rumination and brooding rumination. But first, let's understand what rumination is. Rumination happens when the mind repeatedly returns to the same thoughts, questions, or situations. Unlike ordinary thinking, it doesn't move toward a conclusion, it circles. That's where the problem is. The same concerns are examined again and again, often with the hope that one more round of thinking will finally produce certainty, and that's where overthinking begins. What's interesting is that overthinking isn't usually a sign of low intelligence. In many cases, it's the opposite. Research suggests that people who overthink often have strong pattern recognition abilities. Their minds naturally look beneath the surface, searching for connections, meaning, and potential outcomes. They notice subtle changes in behavior. They think carefully about consequences. They pay attention to details others overlook. These qualities can be genuine strengths, and they certainly are, but they also come with a cost. The same mind that can anticipate problems can struggle to stop anticipating them. The same awareness that helps someone understand people can make them hyper-aware of every social interaction. The same imagination that creates insight can also create endless possibilities to worry about. Psychologists often distinguish between two forms of rumination. The first is reflective rumination. This is the healthier version. It's the kind of thinking that helps people understand themselves, process emotions, learn from mistakes, and make better decisions. At its best, reflective rumination can lead to greater self-awareness, emotional maturity, and meaningful insight. But when reflection loses its direction, it can gradually drift into something psychologists call brooding rumination. That's the second type. This is where the mind becomes trapped in a loop. Instead of understanding a problem, it keeps revisiting it. Instead of moving toward a solution, it keeps searching for one. Questions repeat without answers. Possibilities multiply without resolution. And eventually, thinking stops being useful. The challenge is that the shift from reflection to overthinking is often difficult to notice. What begins as a reasonable attempt to understand something can slowly become a mental spiral. Part of the reason is that thinking feels productive. When you're analyzing a situation, your brain creates the impression that progress is being made. You're engaged, you're searching, you're working on the problem. But activity is not always progress. Psychologists sometimes describe this as the illusion of mental progress. The mind feels busy, so it feels productive, even when it's simply moving in circles. This helps explain why overthinking can be so difficult to stop. The brain is designed to solve problems. When something feels unresolved, it naturally wants to keep working on it. The problem is that some situations cannot be solved through thinking alone. No amount of analysis can provide complete certainty about the future. No amount of replaying can change the past. No amount of mental rehearsal can guarantee that everything will go according to plan. Yet the mind keeps trying. Interestingly, studies have found that people who ruminate more often score higher on measures of cognitive empathy, the ability to understand what others may be thinking or feeling. In other words, many overthinkers aren't simply thinking about themselves, they're thinking about everyone else too. They notice emotional nuances. They read between the lines. They consider how their words affect others. They pick up on signals that many people miss. The same sensitivity that makes them perceptive can also make them exhausted, because perception without resolution is tiring. When you notice everything, every possibility can feel important. Every decision can feel significant. Every uncertainty can feel like a problem waiting to be solved. But psychology repeatedly arrives at the same conclusion. The mind cannot think its way out of every problem. Some things must be experienced rather than analyzed. Some decisions must be made without complete certainty. Some thoughts must be allowed to pass without being followed. This is why many modern therapeutic approaches focus less on controlling thoughts and more on changing one's relationship with them. Instead of treating every thought as a problem that requires action, people learn to observe thoughts without automatically believing, solving, or chasing them. A thought becomes just a thought, not a command, not a warning, not a problem that must be solved immediately. And perhaps that's the most important thing to understand about overthinking. It is not a personality defect. It is not evidence of weakness. It is often the result of a highly active mind trying to protect itself from uncertainty. The goal is not to stop thinking. The goal is to know when thinking has done enough. Because sometimes clarity doesn't come from another hour of analysis. Sometimes clarity comes when the mind finally allows itself to rest.